There is a reason people love to travel to the other side of the world. It exposes you to new food, new ways of life, and different history. It expands the way you think and the way you understand your neighbors. But travel isn't always accessible. So the Saskatoon Open Door Society is bringing that culture to you. This week it held the Threads Cultural Conversations Project, bringing together diverse speakers from around the world, and the conversations can be pointy, designed to challenge assumptions. Our guests today care deeply about creating opportunities for people to learn from one another. They'll tell us about the conference, and they're going to share their own personal stories too. But as always, we want to hear from you. When was the last time someone challenged your assumptions? Was it an experience traveling? Was it a conversation with someone who had a different lived experience than you? And how did that conversation go? Call 1-800-716-2221 or email bluesky@cbc.ca. So we have a full studio in Saskatoon today. Doris Wong is a team lead with the Threads Conference. She was born in China, raised in Canada, and spent years working as a journalist in China. She's now putting all those skills to work with the Saskatoon Open Door Society. Ahmed Majid's family came to Canada from Iraq. Ahmed spent much of his childhood growing up in Moose Jaw and is passionate about challenging stereotypes. He's also a spoken word artist and currently using his voice as communications manager with the Saskatoon Open Door Society. And Mehdi Abrahimpour is originally from Iran, but moved to Canada to pursue a master's degree in philosophy. He's a deep thinker and works as a cultural bridging facilitator. He loves connecting people, and we are happy to connect with all three of you today. Welcome to Blue Sky.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's start with learning about this Threads conference in general. Doris, what's the idea behind it?
Well, it's a cross-cultural learning conference. It is free, it is online, and we invite everyone around the world to attend. So it's a conference that brings together refugees, immigrants, Indigenous and non-Indigenous speakers, writers and thinkers from over 30 different countries around the world, from Africa to Asia to North America. And it's meant to be a space where people share stories, art, and conversation that explores what it means to belong, to remember, and also to reimagine our communities together. And it was launched in 2021 by the Saskatoon Open Door Society as a way to bring these people of different cultures together. And we wanted to create a platform where voices that are often left out of the mainstream conversations could take center stage and build connections that lead to more, inclusive and sustainable future and sustainable communities.
Ahmed, the community we live in right now, the world community, broken down into smaller communities, provinces, cities, and even neighborhoods, it can be intense given what's happening in the world. How do you bring all of these people together in a way that is uncomfortable but necessary?
Yeah, and it's a really good question. I would say you kind of alluded to it. Those uncomfortable conversations are the conversations that we all need to have with each other to kind of expand our worldview and open our perspectives in that sense. If we're just having conversations with very like-minded people who come from similar walks of life and similar backgrounds, how much different is our worldview really going to be? So even as we try and gather our thread speakers and, find the different types of topics and different types of speakers and different walks of life and all that, there's a lot of thought that goes into it to really showcasing, as Doris said, different voices that have never necessarily had that platform or that ability to really kind of share who they are and what they're about. And, I'll maybe say that we live in a day and age where we're all just drowning in information, through social media, through media, through everywhere. We oftentimes miss that human one-on-one connection and that interaction. And those are the connections that really can dismantle stereotypes.
That is what I like so much about this show in particular. I love when people disagree, and I love when they can disagree in a way where they say, I don't agree with you, but I want to understand why you think the way you do. And I really love that we can have those conversations here on the radio, but I find that people really struggle to have them in person because they're so scared of offending each other or a complete, utter meltdown and destruction of the conversation. I'm wondering, Ahmed, how do you pick as opposing point of views as possible, or how do you make the conversations uncomfortable but not bonkers?
Yeah, sure. I think, for any of those types of conversations, whether that's Threads or outside of Threads, it's all about intentionality. What is your intention going into that conversation? And most people are able to kind of understand your intention in your first words of speaking, right? So if you're coming from a place of genuinely wanting to understand and wanting to learn more about a certain culture in terms of how they do things, most people from those cultures will be very open and excited, actually, to be able to share that. It's only when, the tone or the intention behind asking those has a clear, meaning behind it that we're all able to kind of see. That's when I find those types of conversations can kind of go a little bit awry.
We have a mix of some of the voices that were presented this year. Let's take a listen.
When I think about who I was becoming in my early life, and especially as I tried to chase these, accolades of English proficiency, I was becoming a white person in brown skin, and there's even this sort of this thing called honorary white status that, certain people of color can achieve through things like English proficiency or through changing the way that they dress or present themselves in a room or all of these things. And maybe you can relate to this idea of constantly needing to switch codes depending on which spaces you're in and, who you're trying to impress, for instance.
I go home and I'm not Ecuadorian enough sometimes because many things change. My worldview has changed. I respect many things, but I disagree in many things too. And then I also feel like although I belong here, I belong in different groups, but not in the Canadian whole worldview from the outside point of view, if that makes sense.
It's interesting what you say about food, because for me, food is often a very good cultural lens. Like I'm always taking us when we go traveling, I'm like, let's do a cooking lesson. I mean, we see that in Saskatoon too. That relationship with food has changed a lot, and we get to know the landscape and the land.
I want to see us as a Indigenous people taking our rightful place in our own country here. Like right now, many of us live in poverty. Many of us are unemployed. Many of us aren't finishing our high school. There's all these socio-demographic statistics that exist. Those have to change.
The saddest thing is people who don't have imagination, only in the sense that then they can't change their lives. You are not what you are partly what you are, but you're also what you want to be. And to figure out what you want to be, you have to have ideas, you have to have dreams.
You listen to this, and it's got the beautiful music behind it, and you think, that's wonderful. All these ideas are wonderful. But these ideas, as we're listening to them, are not being opposed by anyone. Doris, how does this work? You bring in people from around the world. How do you get into these conversations?
Well, first of all, we do a lot of research. Every year we have different themes. For example, our first year is belonging, then becoming. Then this year our theme is reimagining. So we go do a lot of research from different countries. They may be, our speakers are from all walks of life. There could be spoken artists. They could be governor generals. They could be professors at a university. So we we look at their bios, look at their experiences, look at what they've done, and think about do what they do, what they're working on. Does it relate to the theme of reimagining? For example, this year we have a professor from the United States. He does a lot of research on images, and that sort of relates to imagining and how we see the world. And also, we have an Indigenous speaker, Danny Keeler. She was the first Indigenous woman, I believe, from Canada that went on an exploration to the Antarctica, and she brought back a lot of ideas that made us reimagine how we see the world. And one of her quotes that's really interesting from her talk is that Mother Nature doesn't need us to save her, but she needs us to save ourselves. So that really gives you, a different perspective on the importance of environmental awareness and environmental changes. And, climate change is not about saving nature, but it's also about saving humanity. And we also got a really good speaker, Dr. Jean Augustine, who's the first Black woman elected to the Canadian Parliament. And one of the things that she said that really impacted me is that if it's to be, it's up to me. So that really motivated a lot of people to take initiatives. If they wanted to see changes in their lives, they have to do it themselves, right? They have to take the first step. So yeah, that's how we select our speakers, and that's how we find these powerful speakers.
I love the idea of putting the onus back on the individual and not waiting for a community or movement to make something happen. My question for you, these are recorded, is my understanding. Are these things that could be reshared with schools? Like, what is the age you're targeting if you want people to consume these conversations after they happen?
Absolutely. It can be shared with schools, with organizations, with businesses. So right now, as of right now, after the events, we do record all the talks and we put them online. And if you just register with us at www.threads2025.ca, you will be you will receive a link to watch our online recordings. And after that, you can sign up to the Threads library at www.threadslibrary.ca and to watch all the videos that you want from the past 5 years of Threads.
I just see that as such a value for teachers when you're talking about having differing viewpoints and different conversations. And I know at that age, kids are such sponges that seeing a way to have a respectful conversation with a differing point of view is just something so valuable these days. Mehdi, I understand you were involved in one that caught our eye. It was with Corey Gilschuster. He's with the Ask Project. Corey's also the director of the Masters in Conflict Resolution and Mediation at Tel Aviv University. And part of what he does, just for background before we get into this, is he asks random Israelis and Palestinians to answer viewer questions. And it's completely unedited. And all interviews are included. And the goal is to create an understanding about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I'm wondering what that conversation was like for you.
Yeah, well, the reason we picked Corey was that he was one of those rare chances to go through the persons who are on the ground living that situation. We always are outsiders, and we always see what's happening through the media. This was a better chance to see what's really going on, and we didn't want to ask politicians about their worldview. I think we have already heard a lot from them. We wanted to have ordinary people talk about the struggle they are in and what they think about their reimagining of the future they want to have. And of course, not all of the answers they give us are heartwarming. Sometimes it's disappointing, to be honest. But I think the truth is more important. We need to first catch the truth to see what's possible. And that's why I thought Corey was maybe one of the best people we can talk to see what's going on the ground there.
That sounds a lot like truth before reconciliation, which we hear
yes.
a lot as well. But I'm wondering, what did you learn from the conversation? Like, did it change anything for you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So one thing I was inspired by Corey was that he was not afraid to ask these difficult questions from random people. And of course, sometimes you receive backlash. But I think, yeah, his brevity was something. The other was that, I asked him since when he's conducting these interviews, and he said since 2012. And I followed up asking, have he witnessed any changes in the opinion of people? And he said no. And that's interesting because we think that after all these changes, people's opinions must have changed as well. But that's not the case. And according to Corey, people are more attached to their opinions. So, and that makes it difficult actually to change the opinion then.
I'm wondering if that is because he's speaking to people in the region, right? And I'm wondering, when you're inside of something, when you're really in it, versus being on the outside and having that expanded worldview and understanding the outside context of it, if that would change any of those opinions, and if they even have any interest in changing their opinion.
Yeah, that's an important question. And I think we also have to take into consideration the power imbalance. I mean, we are talking about that region, but everyone in the region don't have the equal power there. Some people are living in a better situation, and some people are living in a worse situation. And I think those who are suffering from the situation definitely want to change it. But the way they reimagine that change, that I think matters the most. And if you want to make your situation better at the cost of, I don't know, being the only one living there, that seems impossible. But I think that idea of reconciliation, to be able to live with each other peacefully, that's something that should happen. And I hope that happens soon.
I'm Sam McKeag. Today we are talking about tough conversations around culture, uncomfortable conversations, challenging assumptions, and all of this related to the Cultural Threads project happening in Saskatoon, put on by the Saskatoon Open Door Society. We have 3 guests from the organization joining us today. Mehdi, before we were talking about what's going on, particularly with Israel and Palestine. Today we're hearing there could be finally a peace deal. How hopeful are you that there is a path to peace here after all of these reimagining conversations you guys have been listening to this week?
Well, I'm definitely hopeful, but I'm cautiously hopeful, to be honest. We have these talks about peace for about 2 years. And even before that, for more than 70 years, there were talks about peace. And we haven't seen peace yet. So that makes me more cautious than hopeful, maybe. But I think that's the only way for us, because we're not going to end with endless fights. I mean, that should end somewhere and sometime. And I hope sooner rather than later we get to that peace. And regarding peace, we need to remember that peace is something that both sides consider as peace, not enforced on somebody. So if it's enforced, then it's domination. It's not peace.
So an agreed upon definition of peace, of what that looks like for both sides. We know conversations can get really heated when we're talking about Israel and Hamas. Why did you want to include the speaker? You touched on, truth on the ground, talking to people. Was it important for you to have this touch point in this conference, Doris, to represent this event going on in the world?
Yeah, definitely. Like the whole point of threads is having people from different cultures talking to each other, especially when there's conflict between the cultures. For example, a couple of years ago, with the Russia's invasion of Ukraine, we had a Russian and a Ukrainian who came to Canada talking to each other. And it's just a way of understanding that we're all human, we all have similar experiences, and people living closer to each other, especially in, Israel and Palestine and also Russia and Ukraine, like they do have a lot of exchanges, they do have a lot of similarities, they are neighbors, they even the family marry into each other. So, we want to take people, out of the conflict and realize the humanity of it. As one of the speakers from last year, who is a Palestinian, said, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're all trying to live together on this planet called Earth, and we need to find a way to live peacefully alongside each other rather than fighting with each other.
Ahmed, when it comes to conflicts like these, the ones that Doris referenced with Ukraine, with Palestine, how do you, with Open Door Society, support new immigrants that are new to Canada, like trying to figure out life in Saskatoon, but also very concerned about what's happening, whether it's to their home country or to loved ones they have over there? How do you navigate the waters of that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's definitely very challenging. There's things called secondary trauma and survivor's guilt and all these things that play into it. And, sometimes people think just coming to Canada and someone being here and leaving that potential conflict zone is enough, and they should be able to just kind of leave everything behind and, move on with their new life here and, forget about it all. And that's impossible. People have family there, they have identity, their core childhood memories are in these places. And so to ask them to disconnect from that is not fair, nor is it realistic. And, maybe something to say is wherever you grew up, here, there, you have things that make you who you are. Right? Whether that's memories, whether that's morals instilled to you from your parents, that is the essence of you. And even if, you were to be moved to a different location or country, or you don't necessarily lose those morals because that is, once again, that is you. So I think as an organization, we're very mindful of that, and we try and, handle it with the sensitivity and sort of delicateness that it requires. Because it's one thing to help someone find a place to live and get a job and learn English and all these things. They're very important, of course, to being successful in this country. But at the same time, we don't want people to lose their culture. That's the whole, one of the major benefits of immigration and diversity is new ideas, new innovations, new ways of doing things. That's how we progress. And I would say as a country and a world, that's how we've always progressed, is new ideas and new perspectives coming to the table.
Have you had conflicts that you've had to help resolve through the organization?
In terms of clients?
In terms of clients, has it touched off at all for you with clients?
Yeah, for sure. And, nothing that I guess we could go in terms
of
detail,
yes.
Right? But yeah, for sure. And it's not just clients. There's a lot of our staff come from these places. And so as they try and do the good work of helping others, they're also having to navigate the reality of what they're seeing in their home country. Or maybe they can't get through to family or to a mother or father for, a week. But they still have to, operate it in a way where they're giving service. So it's very challenging. It's very delicate. There's no, easy answer. It's one of those things we just navigate through.
Mehdi, you're the cultural bridging facilitator, so I feel like a lot of this probably falls into your territory. How do you open up these conversations between people of different countries or different cultures? And are people open to those conversations?
Well, not always, but what we can do is usually to make this environment of safety to share and to even disagree with one another, because it's not always easy to see being disagreed with, but I think it's necessary. If we want to live in a democracy, if we want to live peacefully, we need to first see people disagree with us and then be able to discuss our disagreements and to resolve them. And even we may end up disagreeing at the end, but at least we know the reasons we are disagreeing with each other. And that's really important, because without this empathy, without understanding how others see things differently from us, we're never going to resolve things.
If you're listening today, I want to hear from you. Have you had an opportunity to have your ideas shift after meeting someone or talking with someone face to face? Maybe you went to another country and learned something that fundamentally changed how you think about people who come from there. We'd love to hear from you today. The number 1-800-716-2221 or email us bluesky@cbc.ca. Maybe you have a new coworker that you got to know who helped you understand why things are the way they are for their family and why they do things the way they do. I'd love to hear about the conversations you're having, even the uncomfortable ones, and how they've gone and how you've grown as a person. I mean, if you've maybe not grown as a person and continue to not be open to growth, that's a conversation too. But give us a call, 1-800-716-2221, or email us bluesky@cbc.ca. Doris, is there a potential for harm in these conversations? We know the growth is good. I mean, that's why people go to school and why they travel and why they take in cultural events, because they want to learn. But is there ever a chance of harm in having these conversations?
I would say for every conversation that we filmed, we try to reduce the harm to the lowest level as possible. But we're hoping that through listening to these conversations that people will learn something. We're hoping that they will listen to each other instead of, jumping to conclusions or jumping to another reaction. We're hoping they will open their ears and open their hearts and truly listen to one another and learn something new about the other person. Truly listening to other person's point of view, what they're trying to say. And sometimes it's okay to disagree. That's what we're promoting on Threads. It's okay to disagree with each other. It's okay to have different point of views that in conflict with each other. But the importance is to truly listen, to find out where the other person is coming from, and to learn from each other instead of fighting with each other. And through that, we're hoping to create a more peaceful world.
Ahmed, how do we reduce harm in these conversations? What are some productive ways that maybe people listening can apply to their own lives and their own neighbors and coworkers so that they can engage in similar conversations that aren't going to be recorded and aren't going to be shared with everyone, but so that they're having conversations in a way that maybe they can open up their minds? What are some tools that you can think of?
I would just say, before people even have those conversations, is to once again think about why are they even diving into that? Is it to prove a point that they already have that all their buddies share?
Right.
And exactly, and essentially at the end of the day, just say, look how right I am.
Right.
We're not going to make any progress with that. And I think if someone's coming from that lens, then they're certainly not ready for that conversation. But I do think if people come with that intention of, hey, I heard this about X culture. Can you tell me more about that? I know you're from there. I know you lived in that country. And when you come from that angle, people want to have a conversation and they want to kind of right the wrongs in that sense. And, even I'll say as being a Muslim, I've had people tell me things about what they think Islam is and what Muslims are like. And I'm like, hey, we have many mosques here in Saskatoon. Like, I just encourage you to go, even unprompted, show up, say I'm a visitor, and see what you see and see how you feel and talk to people. Like that's exactly it. We have all these, stereotypes about different cultures and different countries, and hey, this culture must be like that, or all these people from this country, they think this way. And is that true in Canada? Is that true with, mainstream society here in Canada? Absolutely not. So why don't we extend that same grace to other cultures? There's even I would like to say that sometimes when someone from a non-Canadian culture, you could say, does something wrong, the first finger that gets pointed is to their culture or to their religion. And we don't offer that same grace when it's someone from the mainstream society. And so that's really something I hope people can take away is, whatever justifications or grace that we give people here, why can't we offer that for other groups and other cultures and other communities?
Can we dig into your personal experience for a moment?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to be a little vulnerable here. But you came to Canada from Iraq. You grew up in Moose Jaw. You are not a child. I don't want to out how old you are. But the provincial makeup has changed a lot.
Absolutely.
I would say even in the last 15 years. But when you came to Canada, I am going to guess there were probably not a lot of other Iraqi kids in your classroom. What was that like for you?
No, it was definitely an interesting time to grow up, especially in sort of mid-90s, Moose Jaw. Not a lot of diversity, as you said. And, my two best friends to this day is, a Chinese guy and a Malaysian guy, right? And, we sort of had to band together because there wasn't a lot of acceptance for someone who's from a different culture. And, my family, we actually lived in Kuwait for a couple decades almost prior to us coming to Canada. And, 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait. And so we couldn't stay there. And my dad, went overnight, kind of lost everything. He would go to the bank to pull out savings. They'd say, no, you can't take this. And it was a very devastating impact on him. I know that for sure. And that's why he chose Moose Jaw. And, growing up, I was always like, hey, Dad, why Moose Jaw? Can we go to somewhere bigger, more diversity, all these things. And he would always say, Moose Jaw is amazing. It's got stability. There's, you get from point A to point B within 5 minutes. He really, to this day, is a huge champion for that community. And then growing up there, there was an unfortunate lack of understanding. And I would say that became really apparent to me after 9/11. I went from kind of just being another foreign kid, not from here maybe. Looks a bit different to know, your religion is this and your culture is this and you guys all think this way. And that was so, baffling for me. It's the same kids who, I was cool with years before and now have certainly changed how they think and how they feel. And seeing how my parents also struggled to navigate that cultural integration coming here a bit older, that's really what pushed me to this type of work, is to help others who are coming to have a bit of a better experience in terms of feeling accepted, feeling like they have a place in the society and that they can kind of forge their own way and make their own impact.
Does it make you a little jealous of the kids that are in schools today that don't have to forge the path that you did?
I don't know if jealous is the right word in that sense, but I'm very happy to see that, in all honesty, and very appreciative of the different systems, whether that's through different teachers, initiatives coming through that have really tried to move the needle on this. And even my home community of Moose Jaw, I know it's changed significantly in terms of its diversity. So we are seeing, positive change and moving towards the direction we probably need to go. But I think we can all agree there's certainly, a ton of work that still has to happen.
Doris, you moved to Canada from China when you were 9. Did you speak any English when you were 9?
No, when I came to Canada, I knew 2 English words. One is cake and the second one is balloon. So all related to parties. Yeah. So I had to learn from the very beginning. Luckily, there was a very good EAL teacher in the school that I went to that taught me all the English from, the alphabet to sentences. So, yeah, I was very thankful. But again, when I came to Canada, like Ahmed said, that there wasn't a lot of diversity and people don't know a lot about Chinese culture and also what it's like in China. And then people in China back then as well, they have this misconception of the West as being this very technologically advanced society and being this rich, basically they think that all the Americans, all the Canadians, all the Europeans are millionaires, right? So when I came here, I was very surprised. Yeah. So like I was surprised to see that there are not everyone, live in big houses and have these like Maseratis or these like Ferraris. So yeah, that was a very surprising and very interesting experience for me when I came to Canada.
So they were expecting Canada and the U.S. to be like Hollywood.
Exactly. Exactly.
So did you find that kids were kind? I find kids now, I almost said kids these days, kids now are kinder because classrooms are more diverse. Were they kind to you, especially as you navigate? I mean, balloon and cake were your only two words. Like, were they kind?
I would say some of them are very kind. Some of them are, I think it's just because of ignorance. They don't know how to talk to someone who doesn't speak English, who couldn't even communicate with them, right? But as we went on, as we spent more time together, we realized that we liked a lot of the similar games. So I love, like when I was young, I loved playing basketball. I loved playing, volleyball, and I learned lacrosse from some of my friends. So yes, so there was this sense in knowledge exchange and skills exchange. We learned a lot from each other, and through that, I made a lot of friends. But you're right. The kids today, I find, because like I find today the world is a lot smaller, and kids especially, they have more opportunities to learn about each other and to learn about cultures outside of their own, whether it's through going to traveling, for example, or going to their friends' houses and having dinner, or reading books from another culture. They do learn a lot about each other, and there tend to be less of those ignorance about other cultures today.
Mehdi, you work with kids with a philosophy for children program. This like dovetailed nicely into that. Tell me about philosophy for children and like age group. How are you diving into this with kids?
Sure. So this is a program we did in partnership with the Department of Philosophy at the University of Saskatchewan. And the idea of Philosophy for Children is to have a group of kids sitting in a circle and talking about age-old philosophical questions. For example, what makes me me? Or what is beautiful? How do we know that something is beautiful? Or what does a fair society look like? And these kinds of questions. And then it is facilitated by one or two trained facilitators, but the role of facilitators is not to introduce their own ideas or steer the discussion toward their own opinion. It's just to ask questions and make sure that the discussion remains on track and respectful. And other than that, it's the kids who start arguing with each other. And by arguing, I don't mean fighting. I mean bringing forth reasons for their beliefs and opinions and why they disagree. And I think, we were talking about disagreement in society and learning to disagree with one another respectfully. So this is something that we need to learn. It's not obvious for everyone, and it's not natural for everyone. And so these are the skills that we hope kids will develop through this kind of philosophy for children programs.
What do you learn from the kids? What have you learned through this process? I know you deal with philosophy, so you already have a deep mind, but what have you learned from, I find that you can be surprised by what you can learn from kids.
Of course. I think if I have to say one word, it's humility. We adults tend to think that we are special, we know everything, and kids don't know anything. And then when we start talking with kids, you understand how little we know. And there are other windows that are open to us once we talk with kids. And when we see things through their eyes, and it's a new world actually opens up. And yeah, that's it. And every day when we talk with kids, there are surprises, of course. They sometimes say something that I only see, for example, in a philosophical article, and a 10-year-old is talking about it. And so it's always surprising, but at the same time promising to see kids being able to think deeply and also engage respectfully with each other.
Engage. I think engage respectfully is kind of the key word there. Saskatoon is a much different place today than it was 10 years ago, like all of our cities, very multicultural. What do you see the value that Threads brings to Saskatoon and to Saskatchewan?
That's a very good question. I think Threads brings a lot of values because we get to hear from, first of all, the local residents of Saskatoon and what makes up Saskatoon. Today versus 20 years ago. You're right. As we mentioned today, it is very diverse. And we do have a lot of cultures here today. So I think Saskatoon is kind of like a canvas, I would say, that a lot, cultures come in and they add a bit of color to the canvas and they paint a beautiful culture of, diversity, of different ethnic cultures and different languages and different ways of dressing. So by Threads is bringing all these diverse cultures that are in Saskatoon and to showcase our diversity and to make this beautiful painting even more beautiful, I would say.
Okay, Doris, you shared one of your preconceived notions about coming to Canada. I would love for Ahmed and Mehdi to share what you were expecting when you got here and what you thought you knew about Canada before you got here and what your reality was. Who wants? Oh, yeah. Ahmed, you were born here. Yes. I guess that doesn't work for you.
So actually, interesting you asked that because I moved away when I was about 9 or 10 years old to the UAE. So not to Dubai, but to Sharjah, a city beside it. And when I left in 1999 and I got there and everyone said, "Oh, you're from Canada. You guys must have lived in igloos." And I'm like, "No, you idiot. That's not the state of the country," and all that. And then the interesting thing is when I came back in, 2003, everyone said, "Oh, you lived in the Middle East. You must have lived in mud huts." And I said, "No, you idiots. They have the tallest building in the world right now." And so it kind of shows that misconception about each other. And really the need to sort of kind of build bridges between each other to understand, once again, we are much more similar than we are different, right? And how do we lean into those similarities rather than, putting a magnifying glass on the differences?
But in 2020, the fact that people think that any of us, I guess the similarities are that they assumed you lived outdoors in a hut both times. But it's interesting to me that some of those stereotypes still persist. In a time of tech and the internet. Like, you have the internet. You can use the internet. Nothing about Canada will show you an igloo when you Google it. But anyways, Mehdi, what about you? What was your preconceived notion about Canada?
Well, since the West generally is the dominant culture in the world, we tend to consume lots of cultural products from the West, especially Hollywood movies. So I had the images. But, as you know, the images are not always truthful to what
it is. It's a set, yep.
Yeah, so, I had some culture shocks, of course, but I think it's even better than what I expected. Yeah. I find Canada to be a very welcoming country, especially Saskatoon, a very welcoming city. I'm very happy to be here, but it's never the end. We can always make it more welcoming. And for the future people who come here or for those people who live here, we try our best to make it as welcoming as possible.
I have to ask, though, what was your biggest culture shock?
It's a funny one, but when I have allergies, so I sneeze a lot. And I see people, whenever they sneeze, they say,
Bless you.
excuse me,
Or excuse
and
me,
then
yeah.
bless you. So it's a ceremony every time after a sneeze. I can't really do it when I'm here because then half of my work time I have to do this. So this is maybe just one very simple, fun thing.
I love that. I never thought about sneezing as a ceremony, but when you say bless you every time, I guess that does kind of make it a ceremony. That's hilarious. I mean, I guess with you having allergies, your first harvest season was also probably a very interesting experience.
Oh yeah, I have these periodical allergy symptoms in the fall and in spring. So yeah, my colleagues know. They have to tolerate me.
I will make sure that next time you're in a CBC studio, we have lots of Kleenex for you. Before we go, if people are interested in watching some of these videos from the Threads conference, how do they take advantage and take an opportunity to expand their minds a little bit?
Yeah, so as mentioned, all these videos will eventually end up in our online digital library, the Threads Library.ca. People can sign up to it. We, in the past, had a lot of teachers using them in their classrooms, and the organization usually use them for professional development. So, but these are for everyone of all ages. As we always say in our office, it's for anyone from ages 0 to 100 or even 120. So, yeah, because like everyone needs to watch these videos. I feel like everyone needs to learn about each other and learn about one another's culture and learn about each other as human beings and really gain the skills of truly listening to one another without judgment.
Truly listening, engage with respect. Those are some things that I really took away from the three of you today. Thank you so much for making time, for sharing this, and for putting all the work into putting on a conference like this. I know it's a lot of work, and I think there's a lot of people who really, really appreciate it, and I like that it gets to live on through the internet. So thank all three of you for making time and for your work on the project.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so to recap, that was Doris Wong, Ahmed Majid, and Mehdi Abrahimpour. They work for the Saskatoon Open Door Society. You can find more information about the Threads Cultural Conversations on their website.